She flicked a water droplet from the steam, and the third brother's fiancé was moved. But due to societal norms, she couldn't express her feelings, only sending secret glances when unnoticed. Tristan, wild at heart, was also drawn to Susanna at first sight, but he too held back. The third brother, naive and refined, was unaware of the potential betrayal, but the eldest brother quickly sensed the unusual tension. His insight came from his keen mind and his own unspeakable feelings for Susanna, allowing him to catch every subtle expression. Brothers loving the same woman, they kept up appearances, with the older brothers sometimes teaching the innocent third brother a thing or two. With World War I's outbreak, their hard-kept peace began to crumble like the world. The third brother, driven by justice, was set on going to the front lines. The eldest brother, eager for recognition, also wanted to join. But their father, a war veteran, opposed it, knowing it was a senseless game of the powerful, with ordinary people suffering. Tired of bloodshed, he had left his colonel status years ago to live in seclusion with his family. However, his wife couldn't stand the wilderness and soon left for the city, leaving him and the boys. Though she wrote letters to them, she was already gone. The father raised the three different brothers alone, now grown, with their own thoughts, and the youngest having a fiancée. How could he let this happiness be destroyed by war again? Yet, the brothers were set on enlisting, and no persuasion from their father could change their minds. Susanna was both angry and worried when she found out. Angry that her fiancé made a dangerous decision without her, and worried that the bullets on the battlefield could take his life at any moment. But she knew she couldn't stop him, so she sought help from Tristan. Tristan, however, knew his younger brother's character well. Once he made a decision, he wouldn't change it easily. Hearing this, Susanna couldn't help but cry. Tristan, feeling sorry for her, comforted her. Then, like fish to water, they embraced, as they already had deep feelings for each other. The sudden closeness sparked an unspoken tension between them. However, just as they were about to cross the line, the eldest brother suddenly walked in. Faced with the awkward scene, none of them spoke. As Tristan left, the eldest brother gave him a resentful look, perhaps out of guilt for his younger brother. Ultimately, Tristan also decided to head to the battlefield. Before leaving, their father repeatedly reminded them to prioritize their own lives. Since Tristan had a passion for hunting and some experience with bloodshed, their father instructed him to protect his gentle younger brother on the battlefield. Tristan promised to fulfill this duty. After saying goodbye to their father and Susanna, the three brothers embarked on a journey to change their fate. Despite having faced life-and-death situations while hunting, the brutal scenes on the battlefield still shocked Tristan. The ground was littered with corpses. Smoke filled the air, and there was no mercy or retreat. During one battle, the eldest brother was unfortunately injured by an explosion, and the younger brother was grazed by a bullet on his cheek. Tristan, remembering his father's words, focused on keeping his brother safe. His timely protection saved his younger brother, who was full of passion but inexperienced, from death. However, the next day, when Tristan went to visit his injured eldest brother, he barely spoke a few words before a comrade rushed in to inform him that his younger brother had volunteered to replace other wounded soldiers for reconnaissance at the front line. Hearing this, Tristan didn't hesitate for a second and rode out of the camp. Along the way, he encountered several enemy soldiers. Fortunately, his quick reflexes and skills allowed him to swiftly deal with them, but when he reached the destination, gun in hand, in a frenzy. Still, I was a step too late. Turns out, the scouts on the front line were bombarded by enemy artillery. Though the third brother escaped alone, he was blinded by gas and stumbled into barbed wire. He wanted to call for help, but caught the attention of two enemy soldiers. When Tristan arrived just a step too late, he saw him being brutally gunned down. Seeing his brother fall into a pool of blood, Tristan lost his mind. He roared at the vehicles in rage, tearing apart the enemies in front of him. Then, he quickly rushed to his brother, trying to save him once more. However, this time, he was powerless. In overwhelming grief, Tristan painfully removed his brother's heart. Because his Native American neighbor taught him hunting skills and said removing the heart of a dead prey releases its soul. But this still couldn't ease Tristan's inner sorrow. After preserving his brother's heart, he infiltrated the enemy camp alone, killing all he saw and scalping them as a tribute to his brother's spirit. The next day, at dawn, Tristan returned with a dozen scalps, like a bloodied sand god. While everyone praised his bravery, he cowered like a frightened bird, hiding in a room with a knife, afraid to come out. A year later, Tristan retired from the army, but instead of going home, he went deep-sea exploring with his grandfather. Meanwhile, the eldest brother took the third brother's heart back home and held a simple funeral in the snowy land. Overcome with grief, Susan planned to leave the ranch after the funeral and return to her old life. Unfortunately, heavy snow blocked the roads, so she had to wait until spring to leave. Thus, Susanna continued living on the ranch. As time passed, everyone gradually came to terms with the third brother's passing, and the eldest brother decided to reveal his feelings to Susanna. "From the first moment I saw you, I fell hopelessly in love with you. But back then, I couldn't steal you away, so I buried these feelings deep inside. Regarding the third brother's death, I know you're in pain, and I know you don't love me. But I still want to live with you, and I swear in front of the 3D screen that I'll make you happy forever." Faced with a sudden confession, Susanna was a bit at a loss. She indeed had no romantic feelings for the elder brother, but she didn't immediately refuse, because after losing her fiancé and not knowing when Tristan would return, she wanted to seek a third chance at happiness. However, just as she was trying to develop feelings for the elder brother, the long-absent Tristan suddenly returned on horseback. Seeing the handsome and dashing young man as always, Susanna's quiet heart leapt with joy again, and the spring-like glow on her face was fully noticed by the elder brother. But even knowing he had no chance, the elder brother still didn't want to give up, because in his view, the rebellious Tristan could never bring Susanna happiness. And it was precisely for this reason that he wanted to persuade Tristan to give up voluntarily. Unexpectedly, not only did the other party not agree, but Tristan and Susanna got involved. Heartbroken, the elder brother decided to leave for the big city to build his own career. Soon, with his sharp mind and skilled cooking, he opened his own company and became a successful businessman. However, he remained single. Meanwhile, Susanna stayed on the ranch, living a carefree life with Tristan. In fact, if they could each find happiness, it wouldn't be a bad thing. But no matter how time passed, Tristan still couldn't escape the shadow of not saving his third brother. At first, he would occasionally cry in front of the 3D screen, but his daily life wasn't affected by emotions, until one day, he saw a calf trapped in a barbed wire fence, wailing. He originally wanted to try to save it, but no matter how hard he tried, it was futile. In the end, to spare the calf more suffering, he decisively pulled out his gun and shot it. Because the scene was too similar, Tristan began to wonder if, as the elder brother once said, he was the executioner who caused the third brother's death, and once this thought emerged, it couldn't be shaken off. Thus, his temperament began to turn irritable, and he was deeply trapped in pain, unable to extricate himself. Time passed like this, and suddenly there was a malevolent bear causing trouble on the ranch. Tristan originally planned to shoot the troublesome bear with his companions, but when the bear came into range, he couldn't pull the trigger because of an Indian saying. When the hunter and the beast fought and bled, they became one. Tristan didn't want to become a beast, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't suppress the roar inside. That day, he went to a bar with his father and Ichiro, but faced discrimination because Ichiro was a Hittite. Initially, his father wanted to keep the peace, as safety comes first when away from home. But Tristan ignored the warnings, grabbed a metal rod, and struck the bar owner hard. Then he pulled out a gun, angrily condemning the owner's prejudice. In front of the furious Tristan, the bar owner was powerless. However, in his father's eyes, Tristan was now showing dangerous signs. After returning home, Tristan began to ride his horse wildly. He hoped to calm his restless heart this way, but it was in vain. Moreover, in a half-awake state, she almost harmed innocent Susanna with a blade meant for scalping enemies. This behavior made Tristan realize that if it continued, he would eventually hurt those close to him. So, he decided to exile himself again until he truly overcame his pain. Although Susanna was reluctant and even wanted to keep him by having a child, she could only say, "No matter how long you're gone, I'll wait for you here." Thus, on a chilly autumn morning, Tristan rode away. Later, he sailed aimlessly between the stars and the sea until he settled temporarily on an island of a primitive tribe. Meanwhile, Susanna waited at home, as if serving a life sentence. She didn't know where Tristan was or when he'd return, nor where to send her letters. Finally, years later, she received a letter from Tristan saying, "There's no future for us. Consider me dead and find someone else." On the island, Tristan lived a nightmare every day. He didn't know how long this would last, so he agreed to break up to not hold Susanna back. Unaware, Susanna felt like her soul was drained, falling into an abyss. But then, her elder brother returned home. He told his father he plans to run for Congress. Originally, this was something to be proud of, but his father not only flew into a rage but also called him a fool for causing trouble. The reason is that the government has always been inhumane. Otherwise, they wouldn't have wiped out a whole tribe of Native Americans or started wars causing deaths in 3 regions. But his brother said, because of this, he feels more responsible to help Congress bring in wisdom and humanity. Since they couldn't agree, his brother decided not to argue further. However, as he was about to leave, he found Susanna holding a breakup letter, heartbroken. At first, he just wanted to offer comfort, but seeing her face drenched in tears, he couldn't help but reach out to her. Unexpectedly, his father happened to see this. His father scolded him for being shameless, coveting his brother's woman. He decided not to hold back anymore and let out all the resentment buried deep inside. "You've always favored Tristan, so much that you didn't notice she took Susanna from our younger brother before the war, and later from me. Now, she has abandoned you all, even leaving our younger brother on the battlefield, yet you still blindly defend her." After saying this, he harshly threw Tristan's letter into his father's hands. Although his father believed in Tristan's character, the moment he saw the letter's content, He collapsed to the ground, then suffered a stroke, and his hair turned white overnight. Meanwhile, Tristan became more elusive, and no one knew where he went, what happened, or if he was still alive. Years passed until another spring arrived, and Tristan returned to the long-lost prairie with a herd of horses. Now, he is still as carefree as ever, and years of experience have made him more mature, seemingly having completely shaken off past nightmares. As Tristan warmly embraced a friend, his father shakily walked out of the room. Seeing the once vigorous man now with a crooked mouth and slurred speech, Tristan shed tears of guilt. Yet, he seemed unusually happy. He even excitedly wrote his feelings on the blackboard with chalk. After chatting with his father about the past few years, Tristan sought out Susanna. Now, Susanna is married to his elder brother, who is a congressman. So, they move to a mansion in the city. Long-separated lovers meet again, so close yet so far. They still have feelings, but due to their changed status, they part with regret. Susanna wanted to return the bracelet Tristan gave her, but he said it was magical and would protect her. So, I hope you keep it. Hearing this, Susanna couldn't help but choke up. She wanted to keep her former lover, but could only say, "Don't you want to see your brother?" Tristan smiled and replied, "It's better if we don't meet." After letting go of his feelings for Susanna, Tristan returned to a peaceful life. The wounded bear inside her also fell asleep, returning to silence. That day, Tristan, returning from herding, saw the grown-up Isabel. Isabel, the neighbor's daughter, admired Tristan since childhood and even gave up schooling in town to wait for him. Now a young woman, her feelings remained strong. Over time, Tristan developed feelings beyond sibling affection for this wild girl. Soon, they held a simple yet sacred wedding witnessed by their parents. Afterward, they lived happily on the ranch, like a fairy tale couple, with 2 lively children. However, as livestock prices fell, Tristan's life became tight. To prevent his family from suffering, he decided to sell bootleg liquor. Initially, due to its small scale, it went smoothly, but as it grew, it caught the attention of the local Kibo brothers, who warned him. He wasn't killed immediately because of his congressman brother. Ironically, the prohibition was proposed by his brother. As they say, enemies often cross paths. That day, his brother, campaigning with Susanna, came to the bustling street. Unexpectedly, he ran into Tristan, who was out for a walk to cool off. Facing each other, the four were initially awkward, but soon adjusted their emotions, put on standard smiles, and warmly greeted each other. The brothers shook hands, as if the wrinkles between them had been smoothed over by time. However, upon learning that Tristan's son was named Shanmo, everyone was reminded of their third brother, as that was his name. Susanna couldn't hold back her tears, not only because she remembered her lost love but also the times with Tristan. He once thought of having a child and naming him Shanmo, but now, she can only watch as the man she loves becomes someone else's husband and father. After experiencing a mix of emotions, Tristan set off on the journey home with his wife and child. However, when the car entered the mountain path, they were suddenly stopped by a pair of police officers. It turned out that since the last warning, Tristan continued his bootlegging business, so the Copper brothers reported him, hoping to get him arrested. But as tensions rose between the two sides, a tragic scream pierced the sky. When Tristan turned to check, he found Isabel had been shot dead. It turned out that when the police got out of the car, they fired several shots at the rock wall to show force. Unexpectedly, a grenade fragment hit Isabel fatally. Seeing his wife die tragically before him, the beast inside Tristan was awakened again. He hysterically injured the police, but was quickly pinned down and had all his savings taken. As for the deceased Isabel, in front of these powerful figures, no one cared or asked. After the funeral, his brother brought more bad news. Due to assaulting the police, Tristan was to be detained for 30 days, while the shooting officers and the Copper brothers faced no serious punishment. Despite his anger at society's injustice, Tristan agreed to plead guilty to avoid implicating others. During his sentence, Susanna secretly visited the prison when no one was watching. Seeing the man she loves behind bars, she could no longer hide her feelings, saying her love never changed, and she had loved Tristan even before the brothers went to war. Although Tristan still loved Susanna, she couldn't continue the relationship because the tragic death of their third brother stood between them. The elder brother's deep love for Susanna and his guilt towards his wife. A month later, Tristan got out of prison, and his first move was revenge. He had gone to jail willingly to lower his enemy's guard. After prepping his weapons, he ambushed and killed the cop who murdered his wife, then lay in wait at the warehouse to kill Cobber's brother. But before he could celebrate, he learned Susanna had killed herself. This poor woman was torn between morality, betrayal, and fate. Human emotions can only hold so long, and when the spirit breaks, one might end a tormented life. Soon after, the elder brother buried Susanna at the ranch. He had to admit Tristan won Susanna, but he always wanted to. He couldn't grasp why he didn't fight, didn't act rashly, respected his brother, and ended up with nothing. Tristan, outside the rules, won everyone's love. Looking at the old photo of the three brothers, Tristan didn't know why things turned out this way. He even wondered if he was cursed, causing those who loved him to die. Despite his father's support, telling him not to blame himself. He felt leaving family was right, so he packed up to leave for good. But stepping out, he found his nemesis with the inspector and men. Cobber, holding a gun, crouched by his youngest son. Tristan rushed to have the child taken away, then demanded Cobber take him to a secluded forest. Knowing he was doomed, he didn't want the kids to see. As they glared at each other, the father limped out, questioning Cobber. But before an answer, a horse was startled, drawing everyone's attention. Only the father quickly drew a hidden shotgun and shot Cobber in the chest. The inspector, realizing, urgently loaded his gun, but he was quickly knocked down. Another henchman aimed at the father. Just in time, Tristan rushed in. A shot rang out, but it wasn't him who fell. The eldest brother, visiting Susanna's grave, arrived just in time to take out the enemy. This shot saved Tristan and ended the father-son rift. As they say, brothers fight together, and fathers and sons stand united. Blood ties can't be broken. Despite any grievances, in life or death moments, they unite. Facing 3 murder charges, they couldn't escape. Tristan decided to take the blame and, as a fugitive, went into self-exile. Before leaving, he entrusted his child to his brother, who accepted. Years later, the past was forgotten. Tristan bid farewell to his father and brother and saw his children marry and have kids. Someone once said Tristan Stan died young, but his life was as tough as a rock, living past 100 until he died heroically in 1963 in Britain. The film, Legends of the Fall, directed by Edward Zwick and starring Brad Pitt and Julia Ormond, was released in 1994. Tristan loved adventure and hunting from a young age, always valuing wildness and freedom, acting according to his nature. Many people have this trait, but few maintain it as life wears on. Tristan's persistence into old age made him unique and precious, endearing him to those around him, including his father and his brother's fiancée, Susanna. However, every trait has its pros and cons, especially the uncontrollable wildness, which, if indulged, can cause destruction. Tristan often found himself on the brink of losing control, but each time he realized it and chose to exile himself until the wild beast within him calmed. Only then would he return to his family. Tristan's mentor once said that some people can clearly hear the voice of their soul and light the fire with this sound. Such a person is either crazy or becomes a legend, and Tristan is clearly the latter. But as long as you're human, you're never perfect. Though Tristan never let himself down, not letting oneself down can also be selfish. Like how he had Susanna, yet quickly left her for himself. Some might say Susanna got what she deserved. After all, among the 3 men who loved her deeply, she chose the most unruly one. But for a woman swept up by the world, how could she not be drawn to a man who insists on being himself? Susanna's relationship with the 3 brothers is like the 3 types of men most girls encounter in their lives. You might first meet a boy during your youthful awakening who offers you the purest feelings and wants to be with you forever, like the gentle 3rd brother. Then you might meet someone like Tristan, who gives you the most passionate, wild love. Unfortunately, your home has no prairie. Finally, you might marry the one who isn't your greatest love but loves you the most, like the knightly eldest brother. Susanna's life didn't have to be a tragedy. He could have accepted fate's arrangement, comforting himself that simplicity is the true essence. Unfortunately, he had persistence but not determination. Wanting to escape the mundane but lacking courage, leading to a long internal struggle that made him miserable. Helplessly, he could only choose to end his life. In fact, a large part of human suffering comes from being unable to convince oneself that they are just ordinary and can't achieve so-called perfection. Once you recognize and accept yourself, you can find inner peace. Moreover, even in the darkest night, you can still ignite a magnificent life. Alright, that's all for today's movie. Feel free to like, comment, and share. Looking forward to our next meeting.